So Gottman Institute. Gottman's Institute pertaining to strong love maps. What is in the other person's world? Often we have disconnection because we don't embrace what the other person's world looks like. We don't embrace what the other person, their circumstances or what's going on. Number 2, shared fondness and admiration. Create conditions for letting words reflect what is inside. Look for delight, what is good. And these are elements to where it's like, okay, we're finding what we consistently care about in each other. We're finding what we consistently love within each other. But we're creating conditions to do that. So those moments where you have time to yourselves and just to kind of like talk, see what's good about the relationship. Some people are really into writing letters. Some people are really into having cards frequently, or even if their proximity is a foot away. Number 3, turn towards instead of away. Develop joint attention, both parties embracing each other's attention towards something. Sliding glass moments. Hey, look at that tree. Wow, this tree is amazing. Maybe not as simple as that, but you're finding where you guys can both seek enjoyment in little moments and even big moments. Niagara Falls or something like that, right? And just look at that. Like, there's a snake there. Oh my goodness. Where are those ever in the wild here when it's like freezing all the time? So really find those moments where you guys can embrace the small things. And then we have a positive perspective, the capacity to give each other the benefit of doubt. Part of distress is doubt. Some people have a harder time with this than others, especially the folks who kind of got this, like glass half empty, fire and brimstone kind of perspective on the world. Have a positive perspective regarding your partner and the things that we kind of may not favor too much. Sometimes that's the case. Managing conflicts, accepting your partner's influence and dialogue about problems instead of debating. Practicing self-soothing techniques can help. Dysregulation can make it hard to reset and maintain good conversations. And so when we talk about emotion regulation, this is what we're kind of getting to. We've talked about acceptance in the past. This is what we're kind of worked up to. And then we talk about dialogue with your partner instead of a debate. You're not trying to prove either side. Instead, you're trying to find where you guys can meet in the middle on something. And there's not like sides as like we talked about last session. Make life dreams come true. Work on couples journeys together. Somebody's in school to be a doctor or whatever it is, or they're on a full steam ahead on getting some certificates. They're trying to improve their new job, whatever it may be. And we're finding what exactly is like, how can I help? What can we do together to make sure that we are hitting the goals, making dreams come true? And we also want to create shared meaning, making parallel lives. It's not that you got to do everything together all the time, every day, but you're also creating a life where I love Taekwondo, right? That's my thing. And if I can include you in on watching the class or being a part of it, that's something where it's like we have a parallel life. Somebody likes bingo, right? That's something you guys can have together as partners. Trust, acting in ways that maximize the benefit of partners and a whole. It's an investment. The need for connection, the need for prioritization, the need for closeness. And these needs are something that can be, missed. How close and connected are you guys? Do you know what's going on in your lives? Do you know what's going on in our heads? Prioritization, not that somebody needs to come first all the time, but how often does this person is at the forefront of our lives, if that makes sense? Are they not making sure they're not the back burner for like 7 days a week? And then the need for closeness, proximity and all that. Interconnectedness and relatedness. Sometimes we are separated by each other physically and mentally or emotionally. At times we have ego-driven differences. We harp on differences that we think make us better. It builds a sense of superiority in a hierarchical complex. This is where maltreatment comes. We look at things different from each other, and this is where it's kind of like the session is sort of look at differences, and we sometimes see them as deficient. Or there's like better or worse perspective, and it can be very detrimental to building connection, having closeness, and prioritizing one another. And part of the solution to this is having an interconnected perspective. How does this person relate to me? And in what ways are we connected? Focus on what you share. We can make a list on what the commonalities are. Because if we look at the list of what we share with somebody, it reduces that whole difference thing. Because again, we're focusing on differences today. And what happens sometimes is that we look at people different from us and we see them as or differences that we have with them as a bit of a problem, as opposed to something that can be accepted, that can be tolerated. We can't stand certain aspects of people. While those aspects came with what attracted you to them in the first place. Like you want someone with structure, you can be mad at strictness. If you want someone with affection, you might be mad at them always wanting to be by your side. You want someone more loose, you can't be mad at them living carefree. And so there are ways in which, we have these differences with folks. And, it's the very things that drew us to them. And these examples are, I think, probably the best I could muster up. But oftentimes it's like, he's doing this, he's doing that, she's saying this, she's doing that. And it's like, what comes with the territory is, that when you want structure, that's what comes with the territory. If you want affection, that's what comes with the territory. If you want somebody a little more loose in your life, that's kind of like the game you're playing. Yeah, we want certain things in people, but it's also the case that like these certain elements or characteristics or qualities come with these types of personalities too. And so rethinking acceptance. It's not grudging resignation about the state of one's relationship. It's not woeful surrendering to a miserable status quo. What acceptance does is it provides a hopeful alternative when faced with a problem. And acceptance is it's this tool that can help us, as hot as it can be outside or as cold as it can be outside, it's okay. And we have problems with a partner, that's all right. And it's good to look at the status of one's relationship, because it's like, okay, you got these good periods, and then you got where it's like really rocky. And then you got these periods where it's like waxing and waning, and acceptance helps there. And it's not to say that certain things are okay. If there's something like domestic violence, for instance, I'm not saying accept that. I'm not saying accept abuse. But there are things where it's like, you can get over that, even if it's not all the way there. And surrendering to a miserable status quo, if so-and-so's paying all the bills and they feel like they can kind of treat you any old kind of way, sort of that status quo with society at the moment, it's not accepting that either. Acceptance is not to say things are okay when it's really extreme. It's not to say that it's always forgivable, and hopefully we can get to that point. But acceptance is saying that I'm okay with the heat. I'm okay with the cold. Like, it'll change. I understand where it's coming from. Moving forward from here, what does that look like? And so, number one, partners recognize tension as a moment of choice. Before things get tense, that very straw that broke the camel's back, we need to look at two paths. So you got two roads that will come up when you got a little bit of conflict going on, and that's okay. Now, before you get to that, you're looking at both roads. You got to choose where you're going. Oftentimes, getting hot, getting bothered, crashing out, or they could just kind of like take a step back and breathe for a moment. Practice some emotion regulation and all that stuff that could help. Number two, partners begin with a soft startup, X, Y, and Z statements. When you do X in a situation, Y, and I feel Z. When you do this in this situation, I feel like this. This is taking away the sting of having a sort of attack. This is taking away a harsh startup. You want a soft one, this is a way we can kind of like do that. We're tying it to the situation, we're tying it to what happened, and we're involving our feelings. And when we talk about vulnerability, this is a very good tool to use. Do something positive before the talk, as if we're setting an appointment. Oh, you know the argument's coming as soon as you walk into the house or wherever you're going, function and all this stuff. To kind of offset being riled up, we can do something positive. Eating healthy food, if we feel the need to eat, if it's reading a good book, if it is watching a comedy, like something to kind of like offset those nerves before we kind of get into the situation. And last week we talked about having an appointment, preparing ourselves mentally. We know it's coming. It's not going to be a surprise. It's not going to catch us off guard. In fact, it'll prepare us to talk about our points, have that positive frame of mind, build these skills up to where we can kind of like, okay, this is how I'm going to communicate this issue to this person. Okay, so number 3, helping partners meet the emotional challenges of being a good speaker and listener. Sometimes we're bad at this. Sometimes we, especially culturally, we want to be like talked over. We want to be, come like, talk about my point. If we don't feel like the person is being engaged, we're just kind of like shying away, and it's like this person is not really into it. Their heart is not in it, and they're not, and it's not always the case. It's like sometimes somebody's really embracing what you got going on, what you're saying, and they're just, giving you the floor and to have it, and that's a good way to go about it. And the speaker, it's not your time. Like last week we talked about, it's not your time to be judge, jury, and executioner. It's not the time to point fingers. It's not the time to blame or insult or gaslight or whatever it is, especially when it pertains to a particular issue, a very serious issue. And with the listener, it's body language. It's, staying in the task where it's like, I'm here for you. We're in it together. And I'm not here to kind of like start a fire. We're not here to start a fire. So differentiation. This is especially for the teens. And I mean, sometimes even the adults too. The symbiosis of differentiation. Babies in their early life, the attachment leads to differentiation. The ability to be separate from someone while still being connected to someone. Sometimes like that distance we have for our partners can create a bit of like emotional instability in some of us, problems. And it's like eventually, if you really love somebody and care about them, a bit of a dichotomy where it's like, yeah, I can be separate from you, but I'm all right because I know we're strong. There does come a certain point where it's like, okay, you're going a little too long. And then there's like the other side where it's a bit extreme, especially with the teens. You've been gone, haven't chatted with me all day, even if you've been working and all this stuff. And you know what? It's over. Don't talk to me anymore. And they're kind of going back and forth about that stuff. So with differentiation, the capacity for self-regulation within the context of significant relationships is very important. And we talked about that in October. Go back to the videos and see that. The ability to balance autonomous self and close, connections with other important people. You need to be able to be separate from somebody mentally and physically. Have your own mind, have your own will, have your own drive for life, have your own purpose, and you can still be with somebody. Like, just because you're with somebody doesn't mean your world has to be fully embraced and encompassed or entrenched in the other person. So what helps with this is holding a both and perspective. I'm separate from you, but connected to you. Your opinion matters, but the opinion of myself is more important. Your perspective matters, but I do not take it completely, but I'm not rejecting it either. Considering your side, but I'm running against my own. Have your own mind, have your own, worldview and perspective. It's not rejecting somebody else to kind of be your own person, be your own gal, be your own guy. And so differentiation is easier when the stakes are low. So people have an easier time doing this when it's just like this casual acquaintance and this person at work or this friend we just kind of met in class or whatever it is. It's like they're kind of just, they're not so tied to us. They're not so close. The people you do not know as well, where the opinions of us matter less than the opinions of people who are close to us and family. And so the goal then is the goal to be regulated in the face of conflict, adversity, frustration, so that people can operate. It is when people lose a sense of themselves that keeps people from having healthy space through enmeshment, strong dependency. It is hard to feel erotic to one another when people are completely enmeshed. We probably had experiences where our family was like chatting at us about our weight, chatting at us about our mental health or experiences we've had, trouble we've been in the past, emotional state. Like somebody's going to say something about you, and you love this person, you care about them, their family or friend, whatever it is, and it's like, oh, it's soul crushing. Their opinion matters a little too much. There's no like separation. It's more of like, this is what they say has got to be true. It's got to be, emboldened within us. They're not necessarily rejecting it. They're not running it against their own. Even if they do, it's not strong enough. Their opinion is still stronger. And so this concept of differentiation is very important for, especially those verbally abusive relationships. Sometimes it can lead us to starve themselves half to death because their boyfriend or husband wants them to lose some weight. A lack of differentiation, the partner's criticism or lack of validation fuels self-loathing. The partner's criticism is often a reflection of the partner's self-view of self, the criticism is often a reflection of the partner's self-view. It is, it's more painful. You ever had somebody bring up weight? And it was like, on the back end, they've been dealing with weight issues too. They're just not vocal about it. So-and-so talking about you broke because you drive this or do that and do this and then all that stuff. And then they're like in hella debt. They have no money anyway. They're just kind of borrowing their behind off to, kind of live. And they're going to flex on you and act like you ain't nothing. They're kind of like filling this void. They're trying to fill this void by commenting on somebody else. Or probably putting somebody else down would make them feel better. Even if they're in this same mentality and situation, a lot of people kind of bring up their past traumas and have it like embodied within themselves to the point where they have a viewpoint of everybody else. This person's a problem because they're dealing with what I used to deal with, or they're dealing with what I'm dealing with now, but I'm a little better, or I might be a little different with showing it. Partners as self-objects or extensions of self. A partner is blamed or devalued when perceived as not living up to expectations. And that's a rough one. You expect so much of people sometimes as parents with kids. If it's like couples who kind of like want to push each other to make more money, have these goals met, exercising more education. Like this stuff happens all the time where it's like, I got this image of you I want you to be in my head, and when it's not there, I'm disappointed. The criticism comes, the judgment comes, the contempt, the disappointment. So we have to be careful of our expectations as well. Our partners are not an extension of ourselves or an object. And the best example I can come up with this is like, if you ever come across these people who are like medical doctors and they want to find a partner who's in medical school or maybe going to school and dealing with, whatever it is, and they're just hammering them like, you gotta be on the same page as me. You gotta have what I have. It's like, you gotta achieve this, you gotta achieve that. That's them seeing their partner as like a self-object or an extension of themselves, to where it's like, you're a piece of me and I need you to be this kind of like, this, not a child, like this satellite, of myself. This other entity that would mirror exactly who I am. And expectations can create problems. So lack of integration. The partner is seen as all good or all bad. Oh, this one's a doozy too, because I talk about RABT like I talk about the framework with my clients one of the first beginning sessions to look at core beliefs. And it is often when people do something bad or just one thing or a couple of things, and it's like, oh, this person is terrible, they're all bad, they can't do anything right. And sometimes if the person that's judging is so critical or gets to that point where they're just enough, it's like they start to see the partner as like all bad, and then the partner absorbs that enough to be like, yeah, I'm just terrible, or it's on the other hand where it's, the partner's lack of integration is like, oh, they're so infatuated. This person can't do anything wrong. I haven't met anybody like them. They're perfect. And even when they got some things to work on, but seeing them as all kind of perfect and nothing to work on or nothing to address, it gets to the point where it's like, people kind of put the blinders on to, some of the red flags that they should have seen. And then it's like, that's where the pain comes. Okay, so for differentiation, when we talk about the caregiving partner, somebody who's like, super infatuated, this self-referential caregiving, the non-affective partner. I need you to need me. I don't trust that you will love me unless you need me. I give you what I think you need. I give you so much that I need your gratitude. I give with strings attached, keeping a scoreboard. I feel massively guilty taking a break or tagging out. I'm unaware of the ghosts that guide my caregiving. These people who like kind of talked about themselves as being like this mom in the relationship. And on the other end, for the guys, especially the ones who kind of like have the economic favor, they, I'm the one you go to, I'm the one you come to for the X, Y, and Z. Be grateful to me. I need you to need me. You need to rely on me. And it's like, all this stuff kind of in the mix. And sometimes we got to look at the background through a psychodynamic lens and have a bit of a heart-to-heart with ourselves on like why exactly we're like going this way. Was it because mom and dad did it so in such way? Is it because I am lonely? Is it because I feel the need to be validated? I feel the need to have somebody at my whim so they don't leave because the last person did this and they were just gone. So there are a lot of ghosts in the closet for people where it's like they didn't see this in their parents when they were younger, so they try to do the opposite. Or maybe they do the same thing that their parents did when they were younger, And we got to be careful of this element of us, especially when it comes to differentiation. And some of these are pretty dangerous, like, I give strings attached, keeping a scoreboard. I do for you, like there's got to be some underlying thing I got to receive back. I'm giving you what I think you need. All right, well, that should be up to the person. That's, that's receiving whatever it is. So other referential caregiving. I am okay that you need me, but I don't need you to need me. Very powerful, very healthy. I trust that you will love me even if you only want, but do not need me. That's also very lovely. I trust that you will love me even if you only want me, but do not need me. I give you what I observe you need. I'm careful not to give so much that I set myself up to need your gratitude. I tag out to care for myself and to spare you and me the effects of my burnout. I don't have ghosts around caregiving, and I know how to manage the ghosts. So you can break some of these down. I trust that you love me even if you only want, but you do not need me. Like, you don't need me, but I appreciate you. And the differentiation here is like, we're kind of focusing on that, right? It's having that separate but together mentality. We gotta be careful of like, I'm okay without your gratitude. Like, I don't need to do this to kind of like gain your validation. I don't need to do a bunch of this to, be solid in your eyes. Or some people kind of like seek that. Some people kind of like want to give that just because they feel like that's what love is or what connection is. And I think another powerful one is like I tag out to care for myself and to spare you and me the side effects of my own burnout. So we know when we're a little like, the week has been rough, we've been doing a lot, and you're like up there, you know what I mean? And your triggers, and that your partner could be having a fantastic day. They come home and you're just like, straw that breaks the camel's back. You're overstimulated and you just want to calm down, and their energy's on 10, they're all happy, and then boom, you got into a fight. It's like, what you so mad for? What you got going on? Why are you tripping on me? And then you just got that disconnect because it's like, okay, you got a problem now. He wasn't expecting that. I give you what I observe you need. It's not that I give you what I want you to have just because I feel like it's gonna give me some bonus points. It's gonna make you feel like you need me or to have some kind of gratification. But it is giving you, I know you got a bar of soap, I'm gonna get you some bar soap. If I know toilet paper is low, we're gonna get you some toilet paper. It's like, oh, I've been seeing you eye this ad for like a necklace for so long. And I'm like, you know what? I think it'd be awesome if you have it. Altruism means to benefit the receiver while bringing no benefit to the provider. With this comes a collectivist mind, which entails valuing the group over the individual. Some of us are naturally great at this. Some of us need to receive something back. That's okay. No judgment there. The means to receive the benefit while bringing no benefit to the provider is not to say, I get absolutely nothing back. I should receive nothing back. Everything should just be given free, fair, and no exchange. It's not that you gotta give, and get nothing back. No, but it's changing a frame of mind where it's like there's no scoreboard. There's no like holding this over your head. It's not this carrot in front of you to kind of like make you love me more. It's altruism, having this collectivist mind. If you need to receive back, there's no judgment there either. It's like we all have needs and wants and things that kind of like enhance our lives. It's not bad to receive or want to receive back. But in fact, it's probably easier to receive back when you apply this altruistic mind. And this is touching on like connectedness, relatedness, closeness, because it's often the case where somebody's giving more than the other, doing more than the other, and then there's a bit of resentment. Like that individualism is like, it's me. So we're using altruism to kind of like combat some of that. The problem of receiving back is that it doesn't always happen. Like you could do this thinking that, this person might come through later on, but they don't have to, especially if there's no expectation. The purpose of having an altruistic mind is not to be this endless supply in a doormat, nor is it to give till you have nothing left. I'm not saying do that, but if you're gonna do something, do it from the heart without expectation of return in our relationships. And it's not the fact that you need to have that mind all the time too. It's like we have our limits. We gotta understand that too. Although, can I not be bothered by helping out or giving something at the same time? People do not always deliver on their end. We gotta acknowledge that, especially when we're kind of doing whatever it is. And we can relate this to like family or friends. Somebody took some money, that's the popular one, right? We got some money from you, gift exchange, somebody didn't bring something for the ease in our relationships, altruism. And there's no rule for this altruistic mind that says you gotta keep giving. There's that too. So if there's an unexpected expectation for the receiver, then it is immoral for us to dictate when we want to receive back. Applying pressure after such things causes, tension and molds interactions in the future. I gave you some money, like $50 last week. I'm gonna need that back. They're like, we didn't really talk about that. I was like, what's going on? No, this is, we hear it all the time, right? Somebody's avoiding the other person. They ain't talking to them, cold shoulder, see them in public. Matter of fact, they crossing streets and taking different routes to avoid the other guy, right? Altruistic mind can prevent this. And you gotta, again, you're not a doormat, you're not an endless supply. It's not saying you gotta, always deliver or deplete, but it's like, acknowledge who you're kind of doing stuff with if you know that you gotta receive back, and it's okay to want to receive back. But I also think it has to be acknowledged that, make that expectation at the start and make it a strong one. And sometimes you gotta know who you're dealing with too, because it's not always the case. So when there is an agreement to receive back, you can always control yourself while applying some of these techniques and guiding from the perception from the previous session, specifically communication. So when we're looking at altruism, we're applying some of these previous lessons where we talk about imitation as our parents coming out, as our previous selves coming out, the old us. Or are we kind of looking at folks who did it successfully? Are we mimicking them? Are we emulating them? And then we got, self-awareness and, causality, where it's like, yeah, one thing will lead to another. Get that chain analysis going in your head of like A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. It's like this might happen, so it's like, So apply some of that when you're dealing with altruism, when it's giving and receiving and so on and so forth. It's more about what you grow into and indirectly provided. You prevented someone from self-harm, shifted their narrative on life, delayed starvation. You enhanced their character through generosity, through positive feeling, benevolence, better reputation. You benefit no matter what. So this is the thing about altruism. You have such a benefit from this that you don't always see. When we talk about giving the dollar to the guy struggling on the street, when we talk about having that talk with somebody who still did something crazy afterwards, when we talk about, somebody who's kind of hurting themselves, but, we did whatever for them and we didn't get back, it's not always that we don't receive something back, but it's that we're also focusing on the growth within us too. Generosity, positive feeling, reputation, those indirect benefits that we receive. So giving the $50 to the guy last week, it's not always the case that you didn't receive something in return. It gets us away from that transactional mind and moves into a mind of mutual benefit, where it's not like you're not paying for this kind of service. You're not paying for this kind of get out of jail free card with whatever the concern is. And so intimacy. The guys that I counsel are there. This is an interesting topic because a lot of people haven't had what intimacy should be, which is the intimate interaction that occurs when people share meaning or co-create meaning and are able to cooperate their actions to reflect their mutual meaning making. Refraining from meaning making and providing, imposing, rejecting, or misunderstanding meanings are associated with the non-intimate interactions. Repeated intimate interactions may produce an experience of intimacy, while repeated non-intimate interactions usually interfere with or inhibit relational patterns that lead to the share of co-creating of meaning. All this to say, you gotta create meaning. A frame of mind where it's like you're seeking to create this experience for you guys together. So people, enjoy their time together doing pottery. Some people enjoy their time together dancing. Some people play instruments together. Like these moments where it's like you can reflect on it and be like, oh, you remember that. That was lovely. We did it together, right? Let's find something else. So what intimacy does is it reinforces the bond you already have. It creates a bond that's not there. And it allows us to kind of embrace each other much more while doing what we love at the same time. Doing what we, really enjoy. So this is from Wine Garden. And we have play. So I had you guys are online, so we're not playing Uno, but we play because we develop a sense of social signals that align with the appropriate behavior. We observe what makes each other tick, what agitates, what makes us sad, competitive, what that looks like in real time. And so this is part of like what meaning is. I bring this from my book to kind of like pose that. It's like you just play, just do something where you like kind of enjoy each other. And at the same time, it's like, you gotta like spades. I don't really play spades. I played a few card games in my life, but spades was like something I still have to, learn. So with that, it's like, who doesn't deal with loss well. You figure out very quickly the person who's very excited to conquer somebody. You find the person who's like, they're a little quick to deceit. They want to win. They got to find a workaround. You'll find the person who's, they don't really care about winning. They're just pretty nonchalant, chill. They don't really, winning is kind of, it's good, but it's not my life, And so we kind of find these interesting character qualities about each other when we play, when we engage in play. But you got to be like this scientist too, where you observe them and see what's kind of like their their angle. When we take something as simple as play, it's a very simple game, right? You take something so simple, and it can be a very good measure for how somebody would deal with adversity or when they're winning in life. If they're up on the spades game, are they a little too cocky? Do they don't need anybody anymore? Their partner's useless? And then you're like, okay, what does that sound like? So how do these things kind of translate into the real world and our interactions? So what happens when things go, don't go their way? What does it look like when their partner isn't flow? What does it look like when somebody's focused too? Just kind of living life and enjoying things. Once again, fallout of mishandled conflicts, alienation, dissatisfaction, resentment, and hopelessness. There's doubt about the relationship. There's loss of positive forms of intimacy. Negative expectations increase. Certain conversations just aren't talked about. And when we talk about the path forward, when we're talking about working on each other or working on ourselves for relationships, this is the work. This is what it looks like.